it wasn't being recorded. Normally it auto records. So yeah, well, you're right. So the market has been rebounding a little bit. Um, Bitcoin obviously, went down to 18 and change. Now it's up to 23. I think it reached close to 24 one day this week here. And if you look at it, like we'll go to the fear and greed index, we're up to 33. If you remember a couple weeks ago, we were down to around 11 on this. So the fear and greed index has definitely eased a bit, and people are feeling a little bit better, which is good. It's definitely a good thing. And
Do you recommend to buy or still kind of hold on?
you know what? So anything really at this point, dollar cost averaging, I think is good. There is a 20. So I talked to Marty Hibbs, and he's a trader I follow. And he said there's still a 20-25% chance that we run into another downturn on it here. And that Bitcoin still could go to that 12,000 number, but more likely 14 to 17. But he thinks it'll be quick and it'll rebound quickly. So he's like, anything in this price range where we are right now below is great dollar cost in average. And just to let you know what I've been doing, I have been buying some. I have my IRA where I've been increasing what I put in my IRA over the past week or so. So I have bought some Ethereum and I bought some Bitcoin. I'm kind of buying the 1 and 2 right now, because what happens in these markets when it does is Bitcoin's the first to move, or strangely, oddly enough, in this market, it was Ethereum being the first to move up here, and then Bitcoin kind of followed it right back up there too. And that could be because of the merge, what's going on with Ethereum, and going from proof of work to proof of stake. It looks like it's getting closer now to being done, and that might have bumped it up a little bit. And again, it bumped up Bitcoin, and these two will move up first, and then the altcoins will follow. If you look like Polkadot, which is one of my favorite projects, it hasn't really moved. It hasn't moved much at all. So it stayed pretty stagnant here. Where you see Ethereum had this nice little bump, Bitcoin had a little bit of a bump. The Binance token had a little bit of a bump as well. Certain things were having these bumps. Cardano, but Cardano checked back a little bit. Solana, and it's checking back a little bit. Same with Dogecoin. But you see something like, so keep that in mind when you're looking at these projects. The ones that don't move as quick could end up, could end up being some of the better ones to get into, because they didn't move up initially. And then when they do bump up, they'll bump up pretty substantially to follow what the other ones are doing. And you guys are probably pretty aware of Polygon. I think I put that out there. Matic, Polygon, is partnering with Disney on their metaverse virtual reality project. So that's going to be big. Luckily I owned a bit of Polygon, not a lot. I had a smaller holding, but I held some in Coinbase. I had some in Binance. Now I pulled off the exchanges. So some of the things I want to talk about, let me see if I can change what I'm sharing here. I think I picked different things to screen share. All right. So I want to get into this. This is a portfolio that a buddy of mine has that I really, really like. I like his portfolio. So I kind of want to show you, he was kind enough to share what he has. And his biggest holding, he's like me, his biggest holding is Theta, although mine is Theta Fuel is my biggest holding. Theta being number 2, Cardano being number 4, I believe, behind Persistence. I have a bit more Persistence than he does, but Cardano is a great play. XRP also, we've talked about XRP. He's got a big holding of Polkadot. I just think what he has here is a really well-balanced portfolio. I like what he's got. And he started buying cryptos right around the same time I did, maybe 6 months before me. And he's got a nice little portfolio. Again, he was kind enough to share. He has Digi. I have a tiny bit of DigiByte. I used to have more. I got very lucky. It's one of the few things I sold when it shot up to 16 cents, and I bought it at like 1.9 cents. I sold, the vast majority being like 95%. So I still hold a small bit of Digi. But what I've been doing in this market, I've been getting rid. I still have Veracity too, and I do like Veracity, but he has a much bigger holding of Veracity than I have. I do think it's going to be a great one though. Just because it's so imperative in the metaverse. It's a big one. And Chainlink is a great one. I have a big piece of Chainlink as well, like he's got here. That's just, it's an Oracle, right? And oracles are needed in a lot of different projects, and it just happens to be the best Oracle out there, Chainlink, and the biggest one used in a lot of different projects. So very, very good one. Solana, which is excellent. I've been adding here and there on Solana. I like it a lot. I actually have probably a little more Polkadot than Solana, but similar. He has a little bit of SHIB. I have a little bit of SHIB too. I have a tiny bit of reserve rights. I have a tiny bit of Cosmos, but I like Cosmos. That's something I need to get more of. It's only about $10. It's pretty inexpensive. I have some Ethereum and a bit of ZIL. I have more ZIL than he's got here, and I have much more Bitcoin than he's got here. Part of what I've done, just to let you guys know what I'm doing here, is as the market is shifted here and it's down, I've been shifting some of the alts that I did. And part of it, I did it for tax harvesting. I took a tax hit on some of these. So I'm doing it to save on taxes, hopefully for 2022 here, because real estate's killing me with the gains. So I need to offset some in crypto. So I'm tax harvesting a little bit here. And what I'm doing is putting a lot in Bitcoin, because Bitcoin will move quicker. And it's just what I did in 2020 also. I had so much in Bitcoin. I was 92% Bitcoin. And it was the right thing at that point, because Bitcoin moved and then everything else followed thereafter. I was just a hair late on when I shifted from Bitcoin to the altcoins to Theta, right? I should have done Theta earlier. I had already had a bit of Cardano. That was one of my other big holdings, and XRP. But I was too late getting some of these other ones like Polkadot, like Solana, like more Chainlink and Bitcoin Cash. By the way, Bitcoin Cash is still one of the best ones out there. And when adoption really becomes bigger and more mainstream, everybody knows Bitcoin. And when Bitcoin gets pricey and too expensive, they're going to turn to Bitcoin Cash. It's going to end up being your next big one out there. So Bitcoin Cash, in my opinion, is underrated. One, I'm still dollar cost averaging and buying it in my IRA. Just think it's a really, really good, important one to have. But again, he's got a really well-balanced portfolio here. What does he have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. He has 18 different tokens here. He did tell me he's got a couple other smaller holdings and other stuff, but he was putting the more substantial pieces of his holdings in this one, just so you know what he's got there. All right, now I'm going to go to, let's go here. And you guys know I'm staking Theta and Theta Fuel. And I just want to show you this. Theta Fuel is actually going up around 8.5% for the staking. Persistence staying steady at 35% until next April. And then this will drop to 17.5%. Theta, I do stake it too. And part of the reason I stake Theta is because of T-Drop, which is their NFT token, which is about 0.006 right now on the exchange. And you have to buy this, you have to transfer Theta Fuel, T Fuel into T-Drop on thetaswap.io is where you can do that. I did a bit of it this week. I did some swapping of Theta Fuel and put some in the T-Drop, and I'm staking both of them in my Theta wallet. But by staking Theta, you're going to get airdrops of T-Drop, and I've got 2 airdrops of T-Drop, and I think they're doing a total of 4 or 6 airdrops. I can't remember the exact number. So the more I have staked of Theta, the more I'm going to get of that T-Drop as well. And persistence, you're staking it and you're just earning more persistence. And I think that's one of the more underrated ones out there right now. T-bill is the one we talked about. That's that token. That's that stable, kind of a stable coin that's tied to T-Fuel and of course T-bill, and it's blended. It's an algorithm, but not an algorithm like it goes back and forth depending on the price of what T-Fuel does, to keep T-bill price stabilized at around $1, $1.10, 95 cents to $1.10 generally is where it ranges. And it's been stable. And look, this one survived that whole liquidity crisis that we've had here with these other cryptos, which reminds me, that's one other thing I did want to share with you guys as well. Let's see if I got it here. Let's see where I put it. It's not it. And I'm not sure where I stuck that. Anyway, I'll try to pull that up here for you, and I'll stop sharing here for a moment. That one was where Celsius is just talking about they did chapter 11. They're working their way through everything. And I am very, very happy I did not go ever put anything onto these. I still call them, it's a centralized exchange, BlockFi or Celsius. And there's a few others out there too, but those were the two big main ones out there. A lot of people were pushing them over the past couple of years. And I'm looking at them like, the reason I personally didn't like it is because I would have had to put my Bitcoin on their exchange and they would have held it. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to take that risk. And turns out I'm really happy I didn't, because now I'm not getting burned by having money tied up on their exchange here. I still hold it in my wallet. The whole thing is, you don't hold the keys, you don't hold the tokens. So that just goes to prove that. So that is the absolute truth. That's why you want to avoid things like that. Here is, I'm going to share this here. This is the Celsius. Can you guys see the Celsius letter here? This is the email I just got on. Well, this is the one from June 12th. There's another one too. Actually, I got to pull that one up. Basically, it's the same thing. It's just a follow-up of this email here, them talking about they're going through their reorganization, more or less. So that's that. I want to bring up some other things here for you to go through. So I'll screen share again here. All right, let's go. The Bitcoin dominance chart hasn't changed a whole lot, around 43%. It's been down, it's been up a little bit, you know, hovering between 42 and 45, really. I mean, look at the past couple of weeks, but it's been pretty solid. And that's good. Once Bitcoin dominance starts going up, when it goes down, the altcoins go up. When it goes up, the altcoins are generally not really moving as much. It's gaining more the market share than the other things are. All right, now let's go to a couple of articles here. So the Ethereum merge driving this rally. And that's one of the theories that people have.
When she was on steroids,
And
it was like felt so bad for her for like steroids.
it could be that's what's actually driving it here, but there is that possibility that Ethereum is driving the rally, but it could also be just that the market sentiment's changed a little bit. The stock market's gone up. The crypto market follows not too far behind. When the stock market starts going up, people are feeling a little bit better. Now people are focusing, or the media is focusing on real estate, of course, pushing that and trying to put fear mongering in on a real estate market. And I'm still bullish on the real estate market. Yeah, it's gonna have its ups and downs. It's gonna have a little bit of a shift, and certain markets already has shifted. But guess what? It's still going up month over month. The price is, even with the rates going up so much like they did there in March. So we'll see in September really where the real estate market is, and areas like Florida, areas like Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona are going to be kind of blanketed a little bit, they're protected a little bit from any kind of a decline, because that's Sun Belt and that's where people are still moving. And people are still migrating, not at quite the same level they were before, but it's still going on. So I still think real estate's solid. And I think we potentially, going back to cryptos here, I think we potentially may have hit our let's put it this way, about 75 to 80% chance that we already hit the bottom of Bitcoin and now it's on its upward trend. So in talking with Marty a little bit about it, he said that there is at least a short-term buy signal for Bitcoin. He thinks the short term, meaning in the next week or two, that it could get up to 27 to 28,000, with up and a little bit down. This retracement we had when it went up to 24 and dropped down to 22 and change was really good. He was really happy that happened, because that's normal and it's shown that's healthy right now. And so that's a good sign. So we should see it over the next week or so really start to move up a little bit more and more, have days where it pulls back and then continues its incline. So for me, what I'm going to do, again, not financial advice to you guys here, but what I'm going to be doing, continue dollar cost average in. I'm going to be buying Bitcoin first, personally. I'm going to be buying more Cardano. I'm going to be buying more Solana, more Polkadot, because it hasn't moved yet. And I believe it still will move. And when it pops, it's going to be pretty good. And Bitcoin Cash. So just looking at the top 20 here and where things have shifted. By the way, FTX, I do like as well. This is an exchange token. I'm bullish on FTX. They're really growing, gaining a lot of market share. Definitely good. Obviously, crypto.com as well. And it's very inexpensive right now. It dropped even well more than I thought it would. But it's still doing pretty darn well overall. Bitcoin Cash has dropped all the way down to 32 on the list here. 125 is still a bargain. It was under $100 last week, so it's shot up a little bit. It's had a 25-30% increase over the past week or so. Theta Fuel started to jump up a little bit. VeChain has kind of been stagnant. That's one that I expect to pop a bit here too. And then there's going to be the time, and the question is, when will it be the time for the metaverse projects to start taking off again? The Sandbox, the Decentraland. At this point last year, they were really taking off and doing really well. It's not the same market this year, obviously, so they are not taking off. They're still stagnant and getting, under $1 is great. And I own a bit of Mana, I own a bit of Sandbox and Gala and a little bit of Star Atlas as well. So there's the ones that I'm most bullish on and like in the long term. Trying to think of any other ones that are kind of like surprising ones out there. Oh, one thing I wanted to go over with you guys too is proof of stake versus proof of work. I sent out the video to you guys yesterday. And I think that's something that's really important. And it's what gives Bitcoin its decentralization, right? It's very decentralized, and proof of work over proof of stake gives that, because what proof of stake is a lot of people have ownership now in a blockchain, right? A lot of people, besides technically in Bitcoin, they do too, right? You have over 70,000 computers in the most secure network on Earth. The Bitcoin blockchain is. But go into something like Cardano, which I really like, and you guys know I'm big bullish on it, but that's a proof of stake one. And Charles Hoskinson could change his mind about things, and that changes Cardano, where Bitcoin does not have that. There is no centralized figure. There is no person who decides, oh, we're going to do this today or we're going to do that tomorrow, right? It's not. It is completely autonomous, which I love. That's one of the things I really like about it. And Bitcoin Cash is as well. So it's one of the reasons I'm really bullish on Bitcoin Cash too. Plus, I just don't know if the Lightning Network is going to be the next great thing. Is it the one that speeds up and reduces Bitcoin's fees enough to make it worthwhile? Because right now, when you send, if you buy, like, for example, I bought a third of a Bitcoin the other day. I think it was like $58 in fees. Outside of the I Trust Capital, my IRA, which is cheaper. It's locked in at a $20 fee per transaction. But it was 0.58, whereas if I would have bought that amount of Bitcoin Cash, it would have been probably about 30 cents. So you can see the big difference in cost, and the speed would have been much quicker for the transaction. So that's the difference between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. Love Bitcoin, like Bitcoin Cash a lot too. So I'm very bullish on those. As far as the rest of these down here, when you get outside the top 20, and that's kind of why I showed you a list in the beginning here, really outside the top 30, we'll call it, you just want to be careful. You definitely want to be careful, even though Bitcoin Cash is kind of bumped out of it. It's in my top 30, despite what market share says, it's in my top 30 just as well as a few of these other are in here, my top 20, I should say. And partly because of what I believe in a project, and I believe in the people behind the project, and I think it has use case. That's kind of what I'm looking at when I'm looking at these tokens here. Like Litecoin, I have Litecoin, I've owned a bit, and I've sold it, and I luckily sold a lot of it during the bull market and did very well with it. Still like it. It's silver where Bitcoin is gold. The same type of concept as Bitcoin's blockchain, right? Same concept. There is no centralized person in there controlling it, running it. So that's a great thing. One thing I really like about Litecoin, and it may gain popularity. And I do believe, look, it's been over $300. It's probably going to get over $1,000 at some point in time in the next bull market, whenever that really kicks in. So it's definitely one of my lists. It just happens to be in that 20 to 30 range, not in the top 20, as you guys know what I have in my top 20 list. But I think at this point where we are in the market, dollar cost average in your top favorite 5 or 10 or your favorite 2 or 3 tokens, whatever you have the funds to do. Pick the ones you like and you're bullish on, the ones that you believe in. And I think that's going to be ultimately the best thing you could possibly do. All right, now let's look at some of the news that's going on here. So one of the reasons too that Bitcoin dropped recently here too could have been because Tesla sold 936 million worth of Bitcoin in the second quarter. So that could have been the timing of that Bitcoin dump when it dropped down to 18,000. So if that is the case, if that Tesla is the reason that they do that, we can't really confirm that or know that for sure. We probably already hit the Bitcoin bottom and we're probably on our way back up now. And we will have pullbacks, just so you know that. But thought process with the timing of this, with the timing when Bitcoin crashed and the market tank behind it, could have been that, could have been other factors too. Don't know 100% for sure, but there's a chance to keep that in mind that that's what it is. I'll try to put that in newsletter when I put it out here for next week on that new newsletter. I'm going to try to hit highlights here for you and then eventually grow that newsletter out as time goes on, as I have more time to put more content, more different things in there. There's some stuff going on with Coinbase. A lot of you guys heard maybe Coinbase Pro is going away, and it is potentially going away. And all they're going to do is, it's not going to change anything. They just want one centralized Coinbase network. It's going to operate similarly. It's going to still have the low fees. So it's going to be the same concept. It just will be not built on that Pro platform. It's going to be a different platform is all I'm hearing on this. And they'll probably put an announcement, I would imagine, over the next month or so about that. It'll just disappear one day probably, or they'll say, hey, we're getting rid of this. It's going to close at this point, and all your stuff is just going to be shifted over here. You'll still have the same things, but a good reason maybe potentially take some of your stuff off Coinbase for now. Because they do have some issues. They seem to be okay, but they did have to take a hit when the whole market tanked. That's why I take everything off exchanges that you can. I have small amounts on exchanges right now. I have small amounts of Bitmart, small amounts of Binance.us, small amounts in Coinbase. But my objective is by next week to have everything completely off. What I'm doing is just kind of reshuffle my portfolio. Like I was saying earlier, I'm getting rid of some of the smaller alts that I want, doing a little tax harvesting. And I'll repurchase certain ones, but what I don't repurchase, I'll probably buy Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin, maybe Cardano and Solana, Polkadot and Ethereum, those things, because generally what's going to happen is Bitcoin and Ethereum are going to start up first and the rest will follow. So why not have the ones that start up first so you gain more of the market increase, and then you could turn some of that Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash into other cryptos. And I won't put Bitcoin Cash in that same category as Bitcoin and Ethereum. It does not move like they do. It moves like a regular old altcoin, but I do like it for the future. Adoption and tokenomics. I don't want to get into that because that's probably a really deep, long subject. This is interesting and this is good. You probably see more on this type of thing going on. And this has been talked about for the past 6 months, about insider trading on Coinbase and on a crypto, Coinbase, ex Coinbase manager with insider trading. I've heard a lot about this. And look, these guys see everything and know what's coming on the exchange. What would happen was whenever something was listed on Coinbase, it would have a bump the first few days that it was on there, or the first day at least. So people would know this is going to come on. They'll buy it beforehand. They get this bump. It's insider trading, right? You already know what's going on when you're working within a company. And that's kind of how people are getting busted here. They thought they'd be safe, but nope, SEC is going after them, and rightfully so. And you just can't, if you're in these positions, if you're working here, you can't do that. It's a big no-no. So that's something you'll probably see more potentially at other exchanges too. Keep right, other US based exchanges that could happen. So keep an eye on that. Let's see, what else do we have here? I don't think there was anything that was big news. It kind of gets boring when it gets into this bear market like this. You don't have a ton of news, a ton of different projects coming about. Anybody have any questions? Hui or Janice, do you guys have any questions on anything?
I don't. I was just waiting for you to, like you show what's really what you want to stick with and what you don't, and how you want to trade it. And that-
Yeah, and that's the best, stick with the big boys right now. And like I said, Bitcoin and ETH will probably move quicker than other ones like they have recently here. And then as it goes up and you make some profits, you can shift it into some of the other altcoins that you like. So, just a good way to kind of trade, move stuff in there. Unfortunately, you'll have tax consequences, but hey, it is what it is. So that's why tax harvest, like I'm doing right now, it's not a bad idea. Tax harvest, take some losses and then just buy back. So take advantage of the loophole while we have the loophole right now, until they change that, which I expect they'll change that in a year or so, maybe a little bit longer, maybe sooner. Who knows when they do the regulations, but definitely, definitely something that you want to take advantage of now, because you can't do that in a stock market, right? You sell the stock. If you want to buy it back, you have to wait 30 days minimum. And if you never know what's going to do in those 30 days. So
right.
definitely something to take advantage of what we have in this market now. Trying to see if I have a few notes here on things. I did say that the floor is probably 12,000, but more likely 14 to 17,000 for Bitcoin. 20 to 25% chance it's going to hit that next time it drops again. And it could be a black swan event that does something like that, or it could just be something goofy in the market, or bankruptcy, right? If a big exchange went down, then that could do it. Like Voyager wasn't a big enough exchange to trash the market. If it was a Binance or Coinbase, which those two probably aren't going to have any issues, then it'll rock the market a bit more. Proof of stake at proof of work. Do you guys have any questions on that? Because I touched on it, but I didn't get super in depth. Do you have any questions on that at all? Do you have any preference, proof of stake versus proof of work, Janice? Or no?
I still not sure understand exactly. I understand what you're saying about proof of stake, but what do they mean when they say proof of work? What's the difference again?
So proof of work is Bitcoin's blockchain. It's Litecoin's blockchain. It's currently Ethereum's blockchain, where all there is 70,000 computers on the network, and they just build out the blockchain based off transactions and stuff. There's no central authority making decisions. And what I'll do, did you happen to listen to that video that I sent out the other day?
No, I didn't get a chance to listen to that. I did see where you did it, but I'm
going to put it on here because it's short and it's really, really good. So I want you guys to listen to it. So let's put it out here. So now it's going to be on the coaching call. So let me play that really quick. It's only 3 minutes, 27 seconds, right? And Pomp and Jack Mallers from Strike really explains it pretty well. So let's hit it real quick. And if you can't hear it, let me know, but you should be able to hear this.
Okay.
Discussion in the crypto community is proof of work versus proof of stake. Now, obviously, the Bitcoin community, they are ardent supporters and defenders of proof of work. They claim that it is necessary and it is the entire point of Bitcoin. But there are many other proponents outside of Bitcoin in the larger crypto ecosystem that claim we need to move to proof of stake, that it's better, it's more energy efficient, and it brings advantages that are not provided by proof of work. Jack Mallers, the founder and CEO of Strike, a Bitcoin company that I've invested in, was recently at the Bloomberg Crypto Conference, and he was asked about this exact debate: proof of work or proof of stake? What do you think, Jack? Here's Jack's great response.
The fact that if a lot of people want to create Bitcoin, it becomes more difficult is why the thing works. Your relationship with Bitcoin is not a liability. Your relationship with Bitcoin is not a proxy to some foundation, some team, some corporate structure, some development decision. In fact, the founder of Bitcoin, he, she, or they might be fucking dead. And it's working really well, Matt. That's what Saylor means when it's a property. There's no liability relationship. Like stable coins, there's a liability there. It doesn't mean stable coins are bad. Matt, I own a security. It's called Strike stock. Securities aren't bad. Building liability relationships like Tesla stock's not bad, but there's a liability there with Elon and the company and their roadmap and their cash balance, right? And so like proof of stake, your relationship with that asset's a liability. A stable coin, your relationship with that's a liability. In theory, what you want is a monetary asset where there are no liability relationships. That's the whole point of the thing. That's what proof of work solved that. It was like an amazing innovation. Proof of stake, if proof of work is like, we finally got an airplane to fly. So it's a quote of a friend of mine. Proof of stake is like, we know how to make it cheaper, faster, and less carbon efficient. just by not flying. It's like, well, like that's not like a competitor. That's just a totally different product. So sorry, I got a little animated.
Now, Jack absolutely nails it here, which is that a blockchain, the entire point is to drive security, that there is no liability. A blockchain, which was invented to create Bitcoin, actually gives the individual self-sovereignty. It allows them to now have digital property rights. You do not need to rely on a trusted third party, any one individual, or any group of people. This is a brand new concept being brought to the digital world. There are hundreds of millions of people around the world that have adopted Bitcoin, specifically because they want that ability to participate in a peer-to-peer decentralized system, of which proof of work ensures will remain. Proof of stake, it sounds great. It's highly innovative. There are plenty of projects that are going to use it, but it is something different. It is separate. It has its own advantages, but it does not accomplish the goal of proof of work, blockchains. Ultimately, Bitcoin is trying to become digital sound money. I'd argue that it already has. And if more and more people continue to use it, that programmatic monetary policy will protect their purchasing power. Proof of work is necessary. Proof of work is an advantage, and proof of work will continue to be adopted globally. Proof of stake is distinct, separate, and different. Good luck to the folks who are building on it. They're trying to do something different. That's okay. Bitcoin is Bitcoin. Uses proof of work, and that's never going to change.
So you guys kind of got the concept of that, right? Basically,
Right.
the most important
If you look-
aspect of it is, so if you think about it from a company standpoint, he had a great relation with Elon, with his company, right? So Tesla. Let's say Elon goes on a drunken tirade, goes around and murders somebody, right? And guess what? That's going to affect Tesla. Tesla stock is going to drop because Elon was the face, the head of it, that controlled it. And now he's not going to be in charge. And next thing you know, the stock tanks. With Bitcoin, you have nobody related to it, right? There is no connection to anything. It runs peer-to-peer. It's literally peer-to-peer transactions with no middleman, no intermediary. Nobody that can screw up the whole network, right? There's nobody going here and say, you know what, I'm changing this. I don't like the way this is. I don't like that block and that blockchain we're taking out. Nope, because all 70 some thousand computers all have to agree on everything. Nobody can come in and change that. So that's what makes Bitcoin different than anything else out there. And that's that whole proof of work versus proof of stake. And I do like proof of stake because proof of stake does give you the ability for other people to participate and earn in that staking income, rather than just the people who mine it, like with Bitcoin. So that's kind of the difference here. And there's a lot of other things with proof of stake too, but you have additional liabilities, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does make sense.
Okay, good. So it's one of the things I saw and I'm like, oh, I really like this. I want you guys to understand these concepts with that. I'll try to find something where it does talk a little bit more into proof of stake. If I find one of those nice, that's a good short video for you guys to watch, because I don't want to send you anything that's 45 minutes. It gets too much. We don't have time, right, to go through that. So if I find something that's really good for 45 minutes, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version of it on that. But yeah, definitely try to find something on a proof of stake as well. I think that's it on that. And you know what I wanted to talk about real quick? I want to talk about the metaverse, right? Because we forget about the metaverse right now, because those have been really hit and hammered, those cryptos. So the rule is, right, when those things are hitting or all forgotten about, it's probably a good time to be dollar cost averaging in and buying those, because people are fearful of those right now. So that's usually a good time to be buying it. So I want to talk about like what can you guys do, like beside just buying the crypto, like Sandbox or Decentraland or Gala or any of those. What could you do if you wanted to do something different in there, right? Obviously, you could buy land in the metaverse, right? And maybe it's a fantastic time to buy land. I have not looked at the prices. That's something that maybe I will do here. Let me make a note of that, because I think that'll be something good for our next meeting to go over the prices of land to see if there's any good opportunity and any good bargains out there. And if so, that's one thing you could do. Obviously, you can get the land, you can build on it if you wanted to, you can rent it out, you could just hold it for a short term like you're doing cryptos. When the market goes up, if that ends up being a real popular metaverse, you sell the land and take your profit, because that land is in essence an NFT. So the other things you could do in those metaverses is you can, if you want to participate in them, you can actually buy vehicles in them. You could buy clothing. You could buy, purses, watches, all that. Probably weapons for if it's a game. They probably have weapons and things like that you could buy. So that's another way you can participate in it. And there's actually companies doing this in certain metaverses. I think Decentraland is one. I don't think Sandbox are doing it yet. Businesses are actually training people in some of these metaverses right now. They're utilizing it for training sessions, which is great with the VR goggles and stuff, the virtual reality stuff. So the Oculus. So that's something you could do, obviously. If you wanted to get the Oculuses and hang out with friends you haven't hung out with in a long time, you can meet them if they have Oculuses, so you can meet them in a metaverse for a drink or hang out with them. So those are some of the things you could do in them right now besides gaming, right? Gaming is the other thing you can do. So I just want to talk about that because sometimes we forget about these things. And again, I haven't utilized it. I'm not playing games. I'm not doing anything in the metaverse right now. I was waiting for a downturn to look for land. So maybe now is the opportunity to look for land and see if there's anything good. So I'm going to dig that up for you guys for the next coaching call here. We'll talk about the land. And we'll talk about pricing in the top different ones, whether it's Gala, Sandbox, and Decentraland. And I think there might be Star Atlas. I don't know if they're selling land yet. Some of them weren't selling land yet, but I'll take a look at some of those. And if anybody's into the gaming aspect, some of those games are doing land now. Again, I don't know. Gets speculative when you get into outside the top 4 projects in the metaverse. But some will hit, some will not. But let's definitely talk about Disney, because obviously they're planning on doing a metaverse project and a virtual reality project. And I'll tell you, whatever they do usually turns to gold. So we're probably going to want to be investing in them, is what I'm telling you. I know I'm going to be buying them. And as soon as that comes out. So as soon as I get information about it coming out, where we can buy it, I'm going to let you guys know, because I think that might be one of the best ones that you can possibly get. The other one besides Disney that I'm really bullish on, as soon as they do something, would be Amazon, whether they have their own token. Because to me, Amazon is all set up to have their own crypto right now. And it would be so simple for them to just take that and convert it into dollars if they wanted to, or just, keep it obviously as the Amazon token. But that's something I'm bullish on, both those, as soon as they can possibly create their new projects, right? So hopefully they will soon. Knock wood. Hopefully they definitely will soon. We know Disney's working on it with Matic, with Polygon. So we'll see what Amazon is building on and what they're doing. So anybody have questions on that, or the metaverse, or anything they want to see for the next coaching call at all? Anybody have anything in mind? Because I'm open to bringing up different things. I know with I'm still trying to find something in Hawaii for you, and my source hasn't gotten back to me yet, but I'm going to try to find something in Hawaii for you as far as another self-directed IRA. So I'm still looking in Hawaii. Unfortunately, Hawaii is a very difficult state for cryptos. Anybody else have any questions on anything, or anything they want to see for the next, or anything we want to talk about for the next coaching call?
Yes, Paul, this is Hui. I wonder, for your newsletter, can you put out the price at the time that you publish a newsletter for all the top 10 coins?
That's okay. That's great.
Yeah.
Like
so, or maybe the, I don't know, 30-day average or a year, so we can know the range, and then maybe you can put a sign like buy or sell or something. Oh,
yeah, recommendations like this.
Yeah.
Is signal. This one has a buy signal, that kind of stuff. Like that.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Like that a lot. That's a great idea, Way. I will do that.
Yeah,
I
so it
definitely
will be
have
like
that.
action items for us to take action, because I think I was on the sideline for such a long time. I wish I had buy like a month ago.
No, it's still a great time
Uh,
now. Still great. And wait,
Oh,
and
yeah.
ready, there could be another drop, so.
Yeah, so now I'm just waiting. Yeah, because I finally got a little funding in, so I can start to want to make purchase, and then the price started to go up. So I said, oh, but Bitcoin was at 19,000, but
Yes.
now it's at 22,
Out to
23.
23, yeah. And you know what else I can also add on to that too? I can go over, say, the top 3 to 5 coins that have not moved up, that are also my top 20 or 30, call it, that haven't made much of a move yet. Kind of the ones like Polkadot, like I talked about earlier, where they've been relatively flat, because those would be ones that will still be good to dollar cost average in now. And then when they go up, they'll have nice little increases. They generally, the ones that are late have the biggest, most volatile increase late. So it kind
Oh,
of,
that would be great.
so I'll do
Yeah,
that
and then
as well.
I've been watching Aave, because I think a few weeks ago when I was watching the price, it was only 45 or
Yes.
46,
And now it's like
but
100.
now it shot up to 90. Yeah, so I said, oh, I could have doubled my investment, but I was like on the sideline. I was like, oh, I don't know. Should I buy? Should I not?
So one thing to think about with that on those, and it's still not too late on them right now, right? So what area of cryptos got destroyed the most? It's the DeFi, decentralized finance space, and Aave is the leading decentralized space out there, or token out there. So that one got hammered pretty hard, and that's why it rebounded pretty sharply. But it's been as high as, I think, close to $1,000 or somewhere near that. So even at $99 or whatever it is right now, I think it's somewhere around, it's still a buy, potentially still a buy. So it's one of those just dollar cost average. And that's why it's one of the, I always struggle with this too. Do I throw a big chunk of change in it right now? What I found is what's worked for me best is to just do smaller chunks of change incrementally. And that way I get a blended average of the price. Sometimes it works in my favor where the price I end up getting a little lower than I would have in the beginning. And sometimes it works against me. But I think overall, I think it's just the best approach. I think it's your safest approach, because you want to be liquid for when those big dips come. Let's say that big dip comes, that with that big dip, you may then want to really jump in there and put a few more dollars than you would. Let's say you're putting 10%, 10%, 10% per 10%, but there's a big drop where you weren't anticipating it. Then maybe you put 20 or 25% in after that drop. That way it gives you a better, lower average. So that's something to think about too. That's kind of like the philosophy on how to do it. It's going to be ever changing because every market is a little bit different. But definitely something to think about there as well. Anybody else have any questions or anything they want to see for the next call? Anything you want to go over for the next call?
Yeah, and also I'm thinking like for the coin that you recommend to buy, can you also put in an exchange that where to,
Oh, yes.
to get them?
Which exchange?
Because I only have Kraken, so I only buy the coins that's available on Kraken.
So what I'll do is I'll do on that top 10 list, we'll call it. We'll talk about, we'll have the price and then we'll have the exchanges that you can get it on each of those tokens. Sound good?
Yes. Yeah, sounds good.
That keeps it simple. This is something that we'll be able to continue building out and make it bigger and bigger in the newsletter too. So I want to make it an easy, short read for you, but it may grow in size, this newsletter, over the next few weeks. So, but that's all right. More info is better, right? More info is better.
Yeah, and then if we can share next week or the next call what everybody's buying, like what action have anybody
Good call. I
taken?
like that. We can go through everybody and find out what they're going, what they're buying, and how their experience has been with it. That's a good call. I like it.
Yeah, I got some Solana, but I got it high, like $117. So I just been staking them.
Me too. I'm staking it too. I bought a lot of them
So
at 22, and then I bought a lot more over 100 way. So I'm in the same boat with you with some Solana. I've been dollar cost averaging in a little bit here over the past 6 months, but
yeah.
I'm still into it for probably break even considering the two purchase prices I got it at. Maybe a little bit of a loss. I like that. Everyone's.
Yeah, I just hope that one,
Go ahead. What'd you say, Wei?
oh, I'm just thinking, I'm just hoping that if I hit a jackpot on one, hopefully
Yes.
that'll make up with the loss on the others, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And maybe what I'll also add in there, there's the low cap gems. We'll revisit, look at those low cap gems and see what they've done. All right, beautiful. All right, you guys give me some good homework here to do. And get cracking on this newsletter, expanded out here a little bit for you. If anybody else has any questions, feel free to fire away now. If not, we will definitely catch up here in 2 weeks. I'm going to be back in Florida, which is good. So I'll be back in my home office instead of this Regis office that I rented here up in Neptune, New Jersey. So I'm looking forward to getting back to the home office, being settled again. So you will probably see me shortly. However, if we have big market volatility next week, if market volatility happens, I'm going to throw a last second call in here. We'll do a coaching call if we see market volatility either way, and then we'll talk about that. So there's a chance I'll do one before 2 weeks from now. We may do one next week. Let's see what goes on in the market, and we'll just make that a last minute thing. If we see something going on Tuesday, we'll try to set up for Wednesday or Thursday. All righty, guys. If nothing else, I will catch you guys either next week or the week after. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, bye.
Thank you. Have a good one.